Hey guys, good morning. My name is Jason Flame, your chairman of the Moorpark Chamber of Commerce, back for another edition of our Chamber Chat. We got Sam Porrazzo here today. Let me tell you a little bit about him before we get started, and then we're going to hear all about him in just a few minutes. But again, this is Sam Porrazzo, who is the founder of Fix It Fast Plumbing, Heating, and Air, a family-run business serving the community since 2001. His career began shortly after high school, first in construction and later in plumbing, where he found his true passion. Inspired by a colleague's advice, Sam pursued night classes at Los Angeles Trade Tech while working full time, earning his journeyman plumber and contractor's license. What started as a one-man plumbing service grew into an award-winning company that expanded to include heating and air conditioning in 2018. With the support of his wife, Laura, Sam has built Fix It Fast into a trusted local name known for quality, reliability, and care for the community. Sam, thanks for jumping on with me today. Welcome to our show.
Well, thank you for having me.
I know that this is going to be a fun and interesting story at the same time. Uh, for those of you that have not met Sam, he's always got a great commercial at our breakfast. He's always got a lot of energy, and he's really funny too. So I'm going to give you a chance to tell those stories today, Sam. What's been going on in your world? Just this past few months, this year. What's going on in your life?
Well, it's actually been definitely a an interesting year. We got a larger facility. The goal is to be able to train young men who, or women for that matter, who choose not to go with the traditional college route, and instead of having to go through a trade school like I did, where I spent a lot of time not even seeing my family, going to school at night. We're going to actually build it here in the new facility. It's in Simi Valley. It's about a 4,000 square foot facility. We have a classroom already built. We're working on building the lab, and we're going to be able to train these technicians, these young men and women in house. So this way they actually get paid to learn rather than having to pay out of their pocket to learn a great trade that they may or may not ever get the opportunity to step their foot in.
Wow. That I remember when you first kind of started announcing that and talking about that. What an awesome opportunity for both you as the owner of the company to be able to kind of build a team within and train these people to work for your company or maybe go out and work for other companies. I'm assuming that this is a great way to build your staff though, correct?
Well, yeah, the thought is when I first got into this, it was a bit of a challenge to have a great location to work at that would actually have trust in the younger generation and give them the opportunity of being able to almost pass the torch, if you will. So, with that being said, I decided I'm going to do it. I don't want them to have to kind of go through the struggles I did with taking about 2 to 3 years to finally get my foot in the door. It's just a lot of wasted time. So with these opportunities, we could take a lot of great young people that have the aptitude to learn, the motivation to help people, and the persistence to become successful.
Awesome. I think that's so cool. And my wife is watching, and her dad and her grandfather were both plumbers, and so
Oh, I
this
like
is
them already.
you like them already, yeah? All right. So yeah, this is super awesome. I'm looking forward to hearing more about this and more about your journey. But your journey into plumbing started in a pretty unique way. Can you share what moment made you realize that this was the career that you wanted to pursue?
Well, I'll try to make it a little quick. I was fortunate to be working in a construction company shortly after the Northridge earthquake. My genius self decided to move to Northridge from Culver City with the thought that I'm going to have probably 20 years of work ahead of me and I've got to be able to get my foot in the door somewhere, which ultimately became accurate. But more importantly, I was working with a gentleman who was actually a reverend. And they don't always, full time preaching or what have you, so they needed to have jobs on the side as well. So at that company, we were doing drywall patching, and every day I'd sit down at lunch, and he'd give us like a lunch sermon, and it was pretty awesome. But one day, one Friday, he gave me a sermon, and he was talking about Moses and kind of having faith. And right after we're done eating lunch, I packed up my stuff and I put it in my car, and he looked at me and said, "What are you doing? That's not your normal process after we sit down and talk." I said, "Oh, I'm quitting." And he looked at me like I was crazy, and I go, "The sermon you just gave me was about having faith, right?" And he says, "Yeah." I said, well, I have faith. I'm going to go get a job plumbing right now. So I literally left the job. I quit. I went home. I grabbed a newspaper. I did not call my wife because that would have been a bad situation of not having a job and rolling the dice that much. But I had so much belief in that moment in my life that this opportunity was now that I actually did it. I got home, I took a shower, I sat down on the couch, I grabbed the newspaper, and there was a company that was hiring, only one company in that newspaper. I called him up. The guy just happened to answer the phone. I knew enough about construction and or plumbing to convince him that he wanted to give me a shot, and the rest is history. And 30 plus years later, now here I am, and it really worked out having that little bit of faith.
Well, God's timing is pretty amazing, isn't it?
Oh man, it's the most amazing thing on earth. I actually get kind of choked up thinking about it because, ooh man, did that make my life? It was a great situation.
Yeah, I mean, just a huge life-changing moment, and you acted on it, which is, I think, a really special part of it as well, because a lot of people would have that moment come into their life, but maybe they didn't have the faith, or maybe they just didn't believe in themselves enough, or they just couldn't get out of their comfort zone to take that leap, that literally that leap of faith, like you did.
Well, it seems like my whole life has been leaps of faith, you know. So fortunately for me, because of each of the moves that I made, nothing I do is not calculated. Everything I do is very calculated. Some people would say almost too much, uh, to the point where it may hinder me from moving forward. But the reality is, you know, you have to have faith, you have to have belief, you have to believe in yourself. I knew I was going to be successful. There was no doubt in my mind. I just didn't know what it was going to be in. I found this passion. You know, when I first started going to college, prior to going to trade tech, I actually wanted to become a chef. My family's from New Orleans. I was cooking Cajun food as a young kid. So that's where my passion was. So really, it all started then. I was in a little culinary school and I was starting to go through the process. And one of our sinks was backed up and it was backed up for like 2 weeks. And plumber finally showed up and I was in class. And of course, typical me, I wasn't paying attention to what I was supposed to be doing in class, but I'm talking to this plumber guy and I started asking him, I said, hey, you know, how much does this type of gig pay? And he said, well, you could probably get $8 an hour as a starting apprentice. And I was looking at in the culinary industry, maybe making 6.35 an hour. So that was my first real leap of faith. I quit school that day and said, I'm going to be a plumber. But of course, it took me 2 years to figure out how to make that happen. But at least I knew I was on the right direction. And you know, that talks about a little more faith and decisions made in life. But it all started me on my path where, you know, I'm ultimately here now and sitting with you talking about it. So it worked out pretty well.
Well, I love the fact that you're able to share the story, especially because we're talking about an opportunity that isn't the traditional route of going to college and getting a degree. And I think that there's a lot of kids that are built for that, but there's also a lot of kids that are not built for that and need to know that there are opportunities like you've had to make a career in a trade. So I think that this is awesome, and the fact that you're able to offer now the education to help them move forward. So I mean, even better. Just what a great story. Balancing full-time work while going to night classes must have been really hard. What drove you to keep pushing through that challenge?
Yeah. Back to family. You know, I had a young son. He was 6 months old. My wife and I weren't married yet. We didn't do that until he was 3 years old. But I had to be, you know, I had to be the family man. I had to get, you know, for lack of better terms, I had to get my stuff straight, you know. And, you know, it was just motivating to know that I could provide, knowing that, you know, I could work on the weekends if I didn't have regular work with my company to help further what we were trying to accomplish in life. And, you know, when you have a young family and you didn't go through the traditional methods of, you know, college or what have you, I was out of the house when I was 17 years old and I had to figure things out quickly. But traditional college just was not necessarily going to be for me because there was a time crunch involved with it, right? Specifically since I had a young son. So I had to make money. I had to help provide for the family. I had to help us progress, and I had to learn a trade at the same time. So for me, it was just like the perfect mix. Here I could earn money while I'm learning a trade, which I knew ultimately was going to benefit me. So at that point is when the light bulb really went off. I realized that, having a young family was there was going to be some sacrifices, right? So one of the sacrifices was I'd leave work, I leave the house at about 6 a.m. Both my wife and my child were still sleeping. I'd go to work all day. I'd go to school from 6 to 9 at night. I wouldn't get home till 10, and they would still be asleep. So, granted, that only happened like 3 days a week, but there's a lot of lost moments at that point. But ultimately, you have to look at the long term vision, which is what is this sacrifice going to do for us? How is it going to pay off for us? Um, I have to sacrifice certain things now, but how will that better us in the future? And ultimately, it did because we were able to have two more kids. All my kids are successful. My daughter right now is going to school at USC. She's going to be finishing in 3 years instead of four. So for her, like you said, traditional school was good. My middle son decided to go and become a realtor, and now he's getting his insurance certificate. My older son went to traditional school. It was good for him, but it's not good for everybody. So this is where my light bulb went off. This is what helped me become who I am because of the situations that I was dealing with. And I'm super thankful that it transpired in this way. And I had the mental fortitude to push through and to want to be successful. I went and got my journeyman certification after 3 years of being in the trade. Every company I've worked at, I was always the top person because I knew that code book like the back of my hand. So it helped propel me in a position that everybody looked up to me for the knowledge I had and the skill I had, and that I've developed throughout the years. And that's what I'm now giving to my guys. Look, when I talk to my guys, it's not just about learning how to be a good plumber, understanding code. It's about life values. It's about being a good father, being a great parent, being in their lives and working hard for them, sacrificing your time and energy to make their lives better. So that's what my whole goal is. It's not just about me or the company. Yeah, there's money involved, and yes, it helps pay the bills, and yes, it helps give us a great life. But ultimately, my gift is twofold. Number one, to my technicians, and number two, to my clients. If these guys that come aboard in our interview don't at some point say that they want to help people, I won't even hire them. That has to be ingrained in them. And that's something that is very important to me. I don't lead them with the questions, we just have conversation. And if they don't have that personal belief that they believe they want to help people, and if they can't put two and two together to realize that this is what we're doing and we do help people doing this, then I just won't even give them the opportunity. I don't need someone that's going to be, a super academic person per se. I don't need someone that is going to be a super salesperson. I don't care about those guys. What I care about is people that have empathy for other people, that understand that what we do is more than just plumbing, heating, and air. It's an opportunity to help people, and that's what really encompasses our business. We say we're a family business, and honestly, the only two family members are myself and my wife. But what we do is we take everybody under our wings and we bring them up as if they're family. And that's really what we believe here at the company, and that's what's important to us.
I love it. I love it. I mean, there's a lot of stuff to unpack with the answer that you just gave. One of the things that I want to attack before we get to the next question is you have so much drive to be successful, to provide for your family, to be a good husband, to be a good father, to be a good employer and mentor to your team. Where did that drive come from as a young child? I mean, tell me about your parents a little bit and your family life growing up, because there's something there that I think that people need to hear and know about to understand where that drive comes from. Because you don't hear this type of drive or passion in everybody that whatever field they might be in. Some people go to work and they go to work because they have to go to work. They got a job because they had to get a job. But you have something very unique where you're talking about relationships, you're talking about people, you're talking about growth. And there's something behind that. I want to see if we can find that.
It's real simple. I was raised by my grandparents for a good portion of my life. My mom was there as well, of course, but she was a young girl who got pregnant at a very young age. So we had that support. So that generation um, grew up in the Depression. That generation grew up in the roughest times. So I was fortunate to live with my grandma and grandpa until I was 8 years old. So my grandma and grandpa both from New Orleans. My grandma was, an amazing cook, so I learned those lessons. My grandpa was just the hardest working, most ah, emotional stuff, man.
Man, I
Uh,
got you today. I
yeah.
said you were going to be funny. Now I got you all
Ah,
emotional.
yeah, yeah. Uh, my real quick. My grandpa was 5'2". He dropped out of school in sixth grade to help support his family. They were poor country folk out of New Orleans. Didn't have an education. Um, he would make 25 cents every bucket of oysters that he would shuck in New Orleans. Fill up a whole 5-gallon bucket. He'd make a quarter. World War II came around. He enlisted. This man's 5'2". Got a silver star. Ugh. What are you doing to me, man?
I listen. I'm just asking the questions. You're giving the answers, but it sounds like we've got a therapy session going on.
Yeah.
Which I.
No, he,
But listen, I want to say something and catch your breath for a second.
okay.
What I want to point out to the audience that's watching. I mean, you're listening to a man who is passionate about his business and passionate about his team and growing young men and women in a trade. But I think what I love about the chamber chat is not only do we get to learn about the story
Yeah.
of the business itself, what you do, but we're learning a lot about you, Sam, and what kind of person you are. And I've actually had you do work in my karate school, and I will say that uh, it wasn't a transactional experience, and that's what happens in a lot of businesses is things are very transactional. You're very honest, very real. You come in, we're joking, we're cutting up, we're having a good time, we're getting to know each other, and just that relationship part. And then not only that, I mean, you guys go above and beyond to take care of the job, which is not the most prestigious job, taking care of my toilets and the overflowing problem that we had because people don't know not to put like everything into the toilet and just stuff it before you flush it. But it was all of these things, and I actually caught a moment where you were talking with one of your team members, and it had nothing to do about plumbing. It had to do about life, and I could tell that you were mentoring this young man. And so I think that everybody that's watching right now is really getting a view into Sam Porrazzo, the man, and understanding who you are. So I want you to pick back up with your grandpa without getting too emotional
Yeah.
again and finish up that story, and then we'll move on to the next question.
Yeah. They're probably like, this dude is a big crybaby. But hey, here's the thing. When you when I was raised by people that went through such hard stuff, it teaches you a lot, right? It teaches you how important family is,
Mhm.
how we work together, how we become successful. It teaches us old world values, stuff that sometimes can be missed from generation to generation. So it's funny because I was saying my grandma's a cook. My grandpa, he'd fix everything. He worked at a brewery, but he was like the jack of all trades guy. And I remember as
Mhm.
a little kid walking down the street holding his hand, and we went to the hardware store to get some washers to fix a faucet, and I would be there with him fixing stuff, and these values come from that generation that were placed upon me, and I'm fortunate to have that. So they taught me everything I know. They did things a little bit differently. They were very conservative in the sense of they never even bought a house. I bought a house when I was 26 years old. It's the drive to be successful, but to also provide a different lifestyle for my children, a different opportunity, just bettering things from generation to generation. And this is what I do with everybody in my family. I talk to all the younger generations, and I try to kind of school them on how we can be successful, how our hard work as parents will put in the opportunities for the children to help change our demographics moving forward. So we don't have to be coming from a poor family that didn't necessarily have a lot of the opportunities or a lot of the knowledge to take advantage of a lot of the opportunities that we have for us here in the United States, as an example. So, what I do is yes, I own a business. You're right. Yeah, and I help people out because I have a passion for it. But I also help mentor people just because I think it's very important for the younger generation to have someone that cares. Hey, man, I used to coach youth football. I did it in Simi Valley for like, man, it was like 12 years or something. And it was the best experience of my life because of the relationships and the mentoring that I was able to do. So it's just who I am. It's how I do things. I have a passion for success. My success is not the same as the next person's success. My success is getting a message through to people, to helping them understand, to helping them progress, and whatever that's worth.
Well, I can guarantee that it was an experience for those young boys that you coached in football. And I'll bet, and we don't have to go down the road of telling the story, but I'll bet that there's a lot of those young men that still look up to you and still reach out to you from time to time, and there's still a relationship there. So that speaks volumes about you. Let's talk a little bit more about Fix It Fast again and how it started as a plumbing company, but it's since grown to include heating and air. What inspired the expansion, and how did you know that that was the right move?
So it kind of goes back to the same, just worrying about people, right? So imagine having a little old lady in a home with broken air conditioning in the San Fernando Valley. It's like we gotta help protect people, and in our trades with plumbing, we got to protect people's water. We got to get that nasty sewage out. We got fuel piping in the home. With air conditioning, we got to keep the temperature right. We got to keep people safe from all that nastiness. It helps our skin, makes us feel better. So, ultimately, here we are. We've got thousands of clients, and I'm going, well, you know what? There's a lot of companies out here that don't necessarily go through the science of HVAC. All they're doing is just throwing in systems and taking the money and running. But it's a very technical field, and if you dial in someone's home properly, if you build a system, they're going to have the most comfortable air that one could have. And the flip side of that, you're going to have the most energy efficient system as well. So why wouldn't I take on something? I'm already there at the house. Here I am. Let's make their lives a little bit better. And
Mm-hmm.
one of the things, I mean, we installed one of these systems in my house. It's the most amazing thing. I high five myself all the time just because the system is so energy efficient and it feels so good. But this is what we do for our clients. So if we could offer the best opportunities, so where if they're investing money into their home, they're going to have the best out-in system they could possibly have. It just takes our particular trades and it just levels it up another standard.
Yeah, absolutely. No, and it isn't it nice? I mean, for me as a consumer, that if I have someone that can do my plumbing and I need help with this or I need help with that, that I can call one person and not have to call three different people to work in my home, right? So that's also, I think, a convenience for a lot of the consumers and the families.
And
Running a
one more note,
Yeah.
real quick. Right now, we're working on getting our electrical license as well. So the goal is to be that one-stop shop. So you can just call one company and we can fix all their problems. And one other thing, all my guys are cross-trained. So not only do they know plumbing, but they know HVAC as well, and they will know electricity also ultimately. So this way, we're building like the super techs of this world, if you will.
Well, so what I'm hearing is it's going to be Fix It Fast, and we'll probably not have to add plumbing, heating, air, and electricity.
It'll be like
Just
just call it everything.
right,
Fix
everything.
everything fast.
Fix it fast, everything. Yeah. Hey, so running a family business with your wife Laura adds another layer to the work. What's been the biggest lesson you've learned about mixing business and family life? Working with your wife. I know what this is like, but I want to hear your take.
Well, I got to pat myself on the back for this one. I was smart enough to separate them in different buildings. So, like the office ladies and my wife is in one building, and myself and the guys are in another building. So, the best thing I could do is stay out of their way because, I tend to be a little overwhelming sometime with my thoughts and opinions. But what that would do is that could hinder their particular growth and allow them to do what's most important. Just because I have a certain idea or way of doing things doesn't mean that it's going to be right. So this allows us to separate. We work together, but we see each other all the time. But that was one of my biggest concerns. I was super freaked out about being in business with someone that I've, been married or together with since I was 17 years old, and this business really stressing us out to the point where we might have personal problems. So what we do is we separate the two. They're at their office, we're at ours. We try not to talk about too much work at the house, and more importantly, she runs the business, I run the guys, and it makes it work because she's a lot smarter than I am.
Well, that was probably the best choice of your life is who you chose to be with, and I know having my wife work with me, it's the same thing. You know, you got to be able to divide and allow them to do what they do best and let them lead that part, and then I do my part and we come together and it just makes sense. I mean, uh my wife can do all the things that I can't do well or don't want to do, and it works just as easily the other way around. A lot of couples have a challenge with this. A lot of couples have a problem with this. I can't say that we're as good about not talking about work at home because when we're dealing with young children and families and just the nature of our business, we are naturally, and now that my son and my daughter both work in the school, it's like all four of us, we come home and we sit around the dinner table and we're talking about the school and talking about the students and how we can make it better. It can be a challenge though sometimes because it's hard to turn off the work,
Well,
but when you're passionate about what you do, it doesn't really seem like work the same way that someone else might see it.
true, and we're part of a bigger, better business organization, and there was a lot of families that had that same dynamic. So prior to her coming on board full time, she was in the real estate world for many years, but she basically ran a good portion of, an executive's life, and I knew she was going to be very successful. So we reached out to a lot of these different companies who had that same dynamic, and we asked them, hey, what do you recommend? Because it was very important for us not to tarnish the important relationship we have while trying to, work and deal with the stresses of what we do and so on and so forth. So
Hmm.
I contribute a lot of our success to us really reaching out to people and them mentoring us through this process.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Well, let's jump into this final question here as we get ready to wrap up. And by the way, I forgot to mention from the beginning, if anybody's watching, I know that my wife is watching and has chimed in a couple times, but if anybody else is watching live and you want to chime in, give a shout out to Sam or ask a question, now would be a great time. But looking back at your journey, Sam, from the Northridge earthquake days to leading an award-winning company, we can talk about those awards that you've won. What advice would you give to someone starting out in the trades today?
Ooh, man, that's a tough one because if they were in the trades today, I mean, they're going to be successful no matter what. But going into business is a whole different story than just being in trades. Um, there's a lot. There's a lot that we've learned. There's a lot of money lost that you
Mm,
kind of just fumble through. The most important thing I could suggest to someone if they're getting into the trades is definitely do it. If you want to go into business for yourself, that's something that you can definitely do. But I would strongly recommend to get a great support team, company, better business organization that's going to help you get to where you want to go. Because we only know so much of what we know, but we can lean on other people to gain a lot of knowledge that's going to help us be that much successful that much quicker.
mm-hmm. Now you have won some awards. I just want to give you a shout out because you've got a couple years running as an award-winning company. Uh, can you talk about some of the awards? I know that we got some. You're still waiting on the results, just
Yeah.
like us.
So
But show them off.
the first award we got was in 2019, and it was for that Better Business organization that deals with the trades I was telling you about. It's called Service Nation Alliance. We got it for extraordinary outlook. We have a lot of vision. We did a lot of changes when we first came on board with that company, and when we started, we were at about $250,000 in sales. Last year, we finished at about 1.8 million in sales. So the company's grown. And the reason why that's happening is because the word on the street. We get a lot of referrals, we get a lot of opportunities to help people out. We do things in a different way. We're not always the cheapest. I'll guarantee that 100%. But cheap is not always what people need. People need quality, and that's why we've been recognized there. We also received awards in 2023 for the best plumbing, best heating and air company through the Ventura County Star, and we were nominated again this year in 7 different categories. We were nominated in 2024. Unfortunately, we didn't receive any of the first place accolades, but now we've been nominated in 7 different categories, and there may be a buzz on the street that we could have possibly picked up maybe something there. I don't know for sure. But the positive thing is people are still talking about us. People are still voting for us. People still believe in us, and that's because of what we do and how we do it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I was going to say the awards and the accolades, come and go, but the trust and the respect that you have from the clients that you have worked with and the people in the community that continue to spread the word about your business is invaluable. So congratulations on all of your success, all of your awards, working successfully with your wife, creating an opportunity for young people to get into the trades. I commend you on that. Um, why the Chamber of Commerce? Why be a member of Moore Park Chamber of Commerce?
Well, you're with business minded people, right? So the important thing is if you've got a bunch of people that believe in what they do individually, they're going to realize that you're there for the right reasons. They're going to realize that we're all trying to make things better. And if we could come together as a group and we could spread that word as a group, it's going to be very important. It's something that is going to resonate with people. People take time like yourself. I think you work 15 different jobs, man, and you still have the passion to help out the Chamber of Commerce. Well, why is that? Well, it's for a reason. It's because you believe in it. You believe in working with other good people, like-minded people that are going to help make the organization and the city a much better place.
Yes. Well, thank you. Thanks for saying that. And I do. I have a passion for helping people just like you. And it is great being surrounded by like-minded professionals where we can all work together to create a stronger community to help each other. We all rise together, right? The tide lifts all boats. And so I strongly believe in that. And I'm excited to have you as a member. I would highly recommend your business, and I do so as often as possible. Anytime in support Moore Park businesses and schools, people ask, I need a plumber, I need heating, I need air. I'm going to refer you. So I appreciate you and thank you for all that you do. Keep doing
No
awesome
problem.
things, and I look forward to seeing you at the next breakfast and the next event.
Absolutely. And if I may take about 60 more seconds, there's just one more thing that's important I'd like to
Sure.
mention. So the state of California has decided by 2029 that they're going to get rid of all fossil fuel appliances. So right now, which is going to expire on December 31st, there are some tax credits, federal tax credits and rebates available to upgrade your system. The problem is that's kind of dwindling away. So if people are in the mindset of potentially upgrading their systems, taking advantage of some of the federal tax credits and the local state instant discounts or credits to upgrade their system, we can help with that. Plus, we're celebrating our 25th anniversary. So what we've decided to do is we've decided to take another $2,500 off of any new HVAC system that we're installing for our clients. Plus, we get a $2,000 federal tax credit. Plus, we got another up to $1,500 state credit. So basically, I could get a client to save about another $6,000 on a brand new, super energy efficient system. It'll make their house feel great. It'll save their electrical bills, and it would help eliminate having to pay all that money out of pocket once all these rebates are gone, and it's just right around the corner. So something I'm throwing out there just to let people know we could help them with. They could give us a call, reach through the Chamber of Commerce for our information, help them get something and save them a lot of money potentially.
Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing that, and thank you for reminding me to let you talk about that. If you'd like more information about that program and how to receive those benefits, reach out to Sam. Call him at Fix It Fast Plumbing, Heating, and Air. We can get you his phone number, but you want to shout it out real quick? Put your phone
Yeah,
number.
yeah. So you could call my cell direct, and I could actually help maybe educate our clients on what's available. And my phone number is 805 791 1763. That's my direct cell phone number. You could call me at any time. If you just have questions, if you need a second opinion on stuff, if you just want to say hi and say thanks for blubbering like an idiot on the little cast here, then I'll be willing to accept those phone calls as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sam. And let me real quick give everybody an update. We've got a lot of stuff coming up at the Chamber of Commerce here in October. So Thursday, October 2nd, we have our fall job fair from 4 to 6 o'clock over at the High Street Arts Center parking lot. Tuesday, October 7th, we have our October Mixer hosted by B&I Alliance. That'll be at 5 p.m. at High Sweet Creamery on High Street. Thursday, October 9th, we have our Young Professionals lunch at 12 p.m. at Mountain Mike's Pizza. Tuesday, October 14th, we have our Community Awards dinner from 5:30 to 8:30 at M on High. I believe tickets are sold out, but if you give a call to the chamber, you might check if there's a couple left. Also, Friday, October 17th, our next networking breakfast at 8 a.m. at 95 at Lucky Fool's Pub. And last but not least, Thursday, October 23rd, our topic on tap at 5 p.m. at Enegren Brewing in the alley. So guys, there's a lot to do and a lot to engage with us here at the Moorpark Chamber of Commerce. And by the way, if you're a business owner and part of our Chamber of Commerce, if you'd like an interview like Sam's today, where you can talk about your business and tell us all about you, we'd love to do it. Just call us. It's scrolling at the bottom, 805-529-0322, or you could go to moreparkchamber.com and connect with us there. But once again, Sam, thank you for being on the show. Thank you for sharing your amazing stories today, and really appreciate you being on the show today. And I might have lost him, but I'm going to give him a second to come back. All right. Well, guys, that's it. I'm going to close out the show.
Oh, there you are. I can't hear you, but thank you.
Yeah, man. All right. Thank you, Sam. Appreciate it. Guys, we'll see you next time on the next Chamber Chat. Take care. Bye-bye.